We don't have any videos today, so, but you did have some homework. How many of you, they call it your mission, how many of you did your mission? Anybody talked to, you were supposed to talk to a couple agents about closing the deal and the process, and anybody do that? What do you do, wait till you get an escrow and figure it out? Yeah. Not the best time to do it. You know, you want to have some preparation for it. So, you know, this is your business. And, you know, I'm not up here to condemn you for anything that you did or didn't do. But it is your business. And let me tell you, if you don't do this, you're going to be out of the business. You have to find some way to be picking people up and learning. You know, I learned, you know, I don't know whether you guys know that, but I'm planning on retiring in the next year or so. And I still learn. I still read about things that probably won't matter to me next year. But an education never hurts. You know, I may use it in the meantime. It may benefit me somewhere else. So, you know, it's really up to you. I would spend some time figuring it out. Now, the nice thing about here at Keller Williams is your first 3 transactions you're going to do with a transaction coordinator. They're going to have a checklist. But we actually have a checklist here that you ought to be looking at. Just get familiar with some of the forms that you're going to be required during the escrow period, if you're taking a listing. I mean, all the forms that are available to you that we feel are important are on the checklist. So it is available to you. It's on the intranet. You ought to be pulling it up and looking at it. And, you know, maybe looking at all those forms are going to be on zip forms. And so if you're a member of CAR and NAR and SDAR, you'll have zip forms. If you're not, you'll have to wait till you become a member. We get on and look at those forms. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about, you know, I really hate holding you accountable, but that's part of my job. So I'm not going to go to everybody yet. Let me just ask, did anybody in here this past week make 10 calls per day to new contacts?
I mean,
that did?
I mean, calls, but not per day. I mean, one day I made 10, one day I made a little bit less, but not every single day.
Yeah, okay. Well, if you, here's what would be my feeling is if you average that much, if you average 10 people per day, then I would say that you did that. Now remember, you're supposed to add 10 new people. So were you able to add 10 new people, Scott?
I got 3 on Monday, 5 on Tuesday.
Well, that's 10 for the week then, huh? Yeah, that's what I got 10 for the day. You need to be talking to 10 people a day. I shouldn't say you'd be adding every one of those to your database. So that would be connection.
I've been talking to more than 10 people a day. I just haven't been adding them again.
Well, if that's the ones you added, then great. You need to talk to at least 10 people a day. Because not everybody's going to be a client for you. And you know, the nice thing about it, when I first got into this business, I read a book called List More, Sell More. And they were talking about cold calling. And one of the things they said is, you know, so what do you think our average commission is here? How much?
Average commission?
Yeah.
10,000?
10, yeah, probably a little bit more than that, but let's say 10,000. So if it takes 100 calls to get a lead, so let's say it takes 500 calls to get a listing. What's each one of those? Each one of those calls is worth $200, right? So what they say, now this was a long time ago. It was in Michigan. The property values weren't like they were here, but so they weren't putting that much money, but they were stacking up money. Say every time they made that call, they were paying themselves, because the truth is if you as you do it, you'll get better. And you know, getting the appointments kind of the easy part. It's the conversion aspect, but you never get to practice that until you get the appointment. So you got to start with making the call, getting the appointment. So very important. I don't care if you make the calls. You don't have to get on the phone and call people. If you want to go sit in Starbucks and you're good at developing relationships, then do that. I spent some time training with Tom Ferry. I don't know if any of you know who he is. Mike Ferry, I'm not real fond of, but Tom Ferry, I do like. And he used to say, go to Starbucks, put your name badge on, walk around like this. Or set it to desk and set it at a table and open your computer and, you know, have real estate up there. You'll get people to start talking to you about it. Because everybody cares about real estate. If you can just get them to ask you what business you're in, now you just opened it up. You know, the way to do that is to say, what work do you do? So you can be standing in line at the grocery store and you can start the conversation and you can say, wow, really, what kind of work do you do? I'm a accountant. And what's their next, what are they going to say to you? What do you do? It's just out of common courtesy. Now you can say, I'm in real estate. And people always say, what's the market like? And I told you last time some of you were here, I always say, unbelievable. I mean, really, because it's going up or it's going down, you can say it's unbelievable. And they'll go, what do you mean? Yeah, we're really taking a hard hit on the market today. Or, boy, you know, the market's, you know, going up tenfold. So it gets you to start. And that way, you're not really saying good, bad, because if you say, oh, the market's bad, you may not get anything. When you say unbelievable, they go, what do you mean? Doing this or doing that. Just extends the conversation. And then what's your next question to them? Hold on one second. What's your next question? Who do you know? You notice that I didn't say, do you know? Because isn't that easy to say, I don't know anybody? But you say, who do you know? You'll watch them. They'll start to think about who they might know. Now, sometimes they're not going to know anybody. But if you just say, who do you know? They might be thinking about buying, selling, or investing in real estate. And if they say nobody, you say, great, you know, really, here's my card. If you ever hear anybody, been great talking with you. You might want to see if you can get their information, you know. One of the things that I always say is, how about you? Because, you know, you ask, do you know anybody? But they don't think about themselves. So they always say, when I finish up, how about you? Are you thinking about buying or selling or investing? Yeah.
I was going to say, I used your unbelievable line this past week.
Did you?
And, oh, it works like a charm.
Yeah. No.
You don't even have to explain it afterwards. They go, oh, yeah, I can't believe that I saw this and this happened, blah, blah, blah. You're totally right. That's happening all over the place. You just agree with whatever they say.
Yeah, no, I mean, all you're doing is trying to start conversation and can continue the conversation moving forward. So there's a testimonial that after 31 years, I did learn one thing. Okay, so Jonathan, did you make calls?
I have had 4 buyer's appointments this week and not as many cold calls.
Nothing wrong with that, but you got to remember, and that's what happens. I have to tell you, you know, I don't know if I told you guys, but I'm an engineer by education and really by nature. I've kind of changed that over the years, and probably the last 10 years, I've changed a lot. But I was probably right out of the engineer's handbook. I never wore a pencil protector, but I thought like that. You know, I worked a lot inside the box, and you know, I didn't want to get outside the box. I had a lot of rules and stuff, and I forget what I was going to tell you about. That's what happens when you've been doing it 31 years. So with this,
You're just saying how you changed your focus on it from the engineering standpoint of things.
well, yeah, I
to
just changed
changing
it as
it
a
up.
person. Is what I was saying to that. But I don't know what my name was. Maybe it'll come back to me. If it doesn't, you guys lost the wealth of knowledge. Okay, so connections. Did anybody make 10 connections? So did you call 10, I'm not gonna say past clients because you're new, but did you call, you know, friends, family, anybody do any of that?
Not 10.
You do 10 a day? Okay. Well, as I said earlier, Richard, it's your business, do what you want, but, you know, nobody's gonna be giving you clients. And if you don't do something to generate them, you're not going to have them. And, you know, open houses are good. Open houses is, in my opinion, probably one of the best ways to pick up clients. You know, in my opinion, you ought to start working with buyers. I'd say if you have a buyer and they're in the low end, still going to be tough, but there are properties out there for them. But, you know, a buyer, if you have a listing today, if you can get a listing, it's a great thing to have because they'll probably sell them. But most of you are going to overprice them. I can tell you because, you know, seller always wants more than what their property is worth. I've never met one that didn't, and they didn't think it was the nicest property out there. But you know, if you have a buyer and they're what I would call a real buyer, I mean, that means they take the relevant steps. You know, they get pre-qualified, they write good offers, they do property, they do, you know, what's necessary to buy a property. You can get them into escrow relatively quickly if they're willing to write good offers. In today's marketplaces, you've got to write a good offer. And that doesn't mean what the comps look like. Looks like, you know, calling about the pending sales. I mean, that's really what things are selling for today, right? Remember, those sold 30 days before they closed, maybe more. That's what was. You need to deal with what is today. So, but you got to make calls. You got to make contacts with people, or you're going to be out of the business. And again, I don't care how you do it. You can be a social, what we call social farming. You know, do whatever you want. Knock doors, do open houses, create a farm. You know, if you create a farm, you better have certainly another way to lead generate, because farming takes probably 18 months to start to get returns out of it. That's why you should probably pick a small farm so you can hit it more often. The more you hit it, the quicker it will begin to turn for you, because, you know, then people will begin to see your name. If you're hitting them 4 times a month, every week, you'll start to get business pretty quickly. But it can be expensive if you're mailing and printing, you know, quality materials, and you pick too many people. You know, probably 500 would be max. But you gotta do something to generate some leads. Okay, so today we're going to be talking about closing the transaction. And so part of what you were supposed to do to help you get prepared for today was to talk to a couple people. Did you happen to talk to anybody about closing a deal, or what their experiences were? And
yeah, I came up in my buyer's appointment as part of like motivation, what they're
you know,
doing
well,
right
I say
now.
what we're actually talking about in this process is you've got a sale. Now you got to close the deal, and this is probably the scariest part for your clients. And so communication is real important during this process. And you need to know, you know, you're required to use the TCs, and they're going to give you, the timelines that you're going to have to meet for your buyer if you're working with buyers, and I would suspect probably most of you are. But that's what we'll really be talking about today, is that, you know, you need to know the process. What's going to happen? You know, when do I need to order the inspections? You know, was the seller going to order the termite inspection, or do I need to do it? How about the physical inspection? You know, what else takes place? So you need to have timelines and know what you're going to do. Know the process. So that's why they told you to talk to other people about it. They can sit down and explain it to you. But that's what Jerry's hopefully going to be talking about this afternoon. And he's a really good speaker. So I think it'll be interesting and informative for you. But you got to start to learn what the processes are. Now, did anybody read the chapter this time? If you look in here, there is a whole list of activities that and how the flow. They actually give you a flow chart on page 14. They kind of show you how the process goes. I can tell you that you're going to see a lot more nodes on it than you see here, because there are going to be certain things that show up. But this would be the general process. But you know, you need to be able to tell your people when their deposit needs to be in. When you know, they're going to rely on you to do that. So you need to create some kind of a calendar that will help them remain within the contract. Because, you know, what you don't want to have happen, and especially in today's market, you know, you get an offer accepted, but a day after you get your offer accepted, a new offer comes in and it's $10,000 higher than yours. What do you think the seller wants to do? He wants to cancel the contract with you. And they're going to look for every way they can do it. And, you know, you can give a notice to perform 2 days before the event is due, and on the day that it's that it's due. If it's not done, the next day they can cancel. And, you know, people will do that. I mean, I just had an agent came in to me this morning. He was complaining that the agent gave him a notice to perform a day before the contingency date. And I said to him, that's what they should be doing. In my opinion, you ought to give it to them 2 days before. Because that's in the best interest of your client. Remember, you don't have to cancel, but you at least you put them on notice that if they don't, you have a right to cancel. And that'll put, let me tell you, that'll put a scare into them. And you'll get them to move along. That typically gets them to move along. Now, you've got to obviously talk to your clients about that and make sure. But, you know, you're going to need to know the process of how to close escrow. Yeah.
Quick question here. You perform hundreds of thousands of transactions in your time. How frequently does that happen? But you have to really kind of hold their hand through the whole process. Those
Well,
perform.
first-time home buyers, you're going to be holding their hand much. And even not even first-time home buyers. You know, most people will say to you, you know, I haven't bought a property in a long time. What do we do? I mean, I communicate with them on a regular basis.
I mean, I noticed you perform, like you're trying to get the other agent to keep going, getting the tracks to move forward. How often did you continue to present those as far as a percentage-wise, the notice to perform? You got to do this.
May I
Make
answer
sure this-
that question?
Sure.
When I'm in transaction with another agent, I'm in touch with them almost daily.
Really?
By phone or email
With the other agent?
with the other agent, almost constantly in touch with them. That way they know, I know what's going on, and it's keeping them on track.
And you,
Without pushing. That's
well, and yeah, you can call and remind them, but this is really speaking, and not that you don't have to communicate with the other side, but this is really speaking to communicating with your client. Because this is a scary time. You know, there's the three most stressful things that happen to people in their lifetime is what? Death, divorce, and moving. So you're on number 3, and you know their stress level is high, and so sometimes they may get angry with you or short or maybe even yell at you. Don't take it personally. It's not about you. It's that they're feeling that stress. I mean, you know, I got to tell you, I've bought lots of properties, and every time I buy one, fear shows up. I wonder, am I going to be able to pay for this property? No matter, you know, what my income might be, how good of a year it is, you just never know. And so I've always felt afraid. And I have to tell you, I've lost properties to foreclosure. When I lived in Texas, I owned 4 properties there. The oil prices went $8 a barrel, and everything shut down in Houston. Nobody was buying it. My rentals were, I wasn't getting my rent on my rentals. I lost 4 properties. I moved to California. Luckily, a lot of people had, and it didn't end up on my credit report. So I lucked out. I mean, that was pretty nice situation. But you know, tons of savings and loans went under it in Houston in the mid 80s, to about 85, 86, 87.
Good time to get on too. It's underwater now.
Pardon me?
Houston's underwater now. Well, not anymore.
Yeah. Well, there'll be some houses being built there, or you know, being sold. Okay, so did you guys bring your list with you today? You got your list of 10 people or 20 people or somebody you can call? How about you? Any people to call?
I just was talking to Jerry and dropped in on this class.
Yeah. Okay. Well, they're need to make calls, so you can hang out and listen and do whatever. So you guys have people to call? All right. So let's get on the phone and make some calls. Let's get some appointments today. How's that? Yeah. How do you get an appointment?
Call them up.
Ask.
Call them up.
Most people don't ask. I'm serious. Most people don't ask. And you know, there are, let me tell you, before we get going, maybe this will be helpful for you, write this down. There's only 5 ways to ask for an appointment. How do you think most people ask for an appointment?
When you want to come in tomorrow at 5?
That's great. That's asking for an appointment. But here's what most people say. Why don't we? So in that statement, what are you asking for? A reason not to, right? Now, he asked for an appointment. So when? Where would be a good place to meet? Would be asking for it. How soon can we meet? What time is best for you? Those are all ways to ask for appointments. But most people, I mean, I used to be I was kind of a trainer for Prudential. I wasn't trained for Prudential. But the guy that trained me, we used to get people before we moved down to San Diego. I worked with the company, and we'd get top agents up on. Now the truth is when you're up in front of 500 people on a stage, and you're trying to get somebody that you're nervous. I don't care how long you've been doing it. When you're in front of Mr. and Mrs., you feel confident in it, but now you got 500 realtors out there that you think are judging you, and it puts a little bit of fear into you. But probably 95% of them would never ask for an appointment. They would say, "Why don't we?" And then the client, and because the other person that was being asked was trained to know, well, because I'm too busy. If you ask me why not, so. Yeah, right. I mean, and you need to learn that. What I would do is I would take and put something up in front of you where you're calling. So you can say, how soon, what time, where would be a good time for us to meet? When would be a good time? How soon? I said that.
Yep. How soon, where, when, what time is best?
Yeah.
That's the last. Why don't we? Well, no,
Oh,
don't say why
don't
say why
don't say why don't we. I can't remember, was it in English or what? They used to have that same, but let's see, so where, when, which day would be best for you? I'd like to get together with you. Which day would be best? Tuesday or Wednesday of next week. Just remember, just take "why don't you" out of your vocabulary, and no matter what. I mean, if you're asking somebody to do something and you say "why don't," if it's your spouse, what do you? I mean, you're just telling them, "Just give me a reason, and I'll be okay." You said "why don't"? Why don't you? I'm too tired. All right, so let's get on the phone and use those terms. How soon? Let's get some appointments. I don't see any enthusiasm out there.
I'm getting an appointment.
Don't worry about it. I understand you don't know a lot. To get the appointment, we'll teach you. How many of you have read the Red Book? Halfway through it. Yeah, all of you read it? Oh, good. Yeah. So you saw in there. So what do you do? You lead with revenue. Lead with revenue. So that's what it's all about. Leading with revenue. I got to tell you, we should have read that book a long time ago. Both my partner and I, we both came out of business. But she was probably more. I'm an engineer, and I would kind of think along the engineering. She was probably more business oriented than I was. Although I became a national sales manager for a company, and I had to do a lot of budgets and stuff like that. But she was probably more of that. She got us, but we never led with revenue. Her philosophy was spend the money. It'll come back to us. Sometimes it did, sometimes it didn't. Especially when the downturn, we were spending $10,000 a month for mail outs. So how many are you going to lead generate this weekend? Since you're doing open house? What are you doing this weekend? Are you knocking doors? Good girl. Listen. Listen. So let me tell you just a quick story. So I started knocking doors when I first got into this business, and I walked up on this porch and it said "Happy Landing." So what do you think? I mean, people got happy landings, and I'm down near the beach. I lived in Long Beach at the time, and said "Happy Landing." I knocked on the guy's door, and he said, "Get the hell off my porch." So, and I tell you, it stunned me for a while, because I'm not a terribly aggressive person.
And of course, the engineer. Oh my
Yeah.
God, how you did it! I really want to see
I
it.
laughed at that one.
But I went back out and did it again, because if I didn't, I wasn't going to eat. And so I had to find. I did a lot of open houses. So first year I was in the business, I didn't do very well. Both my parents passed away, so I was kind of hung up in that. But the second year I was in business. Now, doesn't mean I was that great. I did a lot of open houses. It was a hot market. It was 1989. That's when the market was another time the market was very hot. And I closed 25 deals in my first full year in the business. And you can do it too. But let me tell you, I worked my little butt off. We did open houses Saturday and Sunday. I was by myself, but my broker had us doing open houses Saturday and Sunday every weekend. But that's what the result is. You know, if you get out there and lead generate, you'll make money.
You used to open houses for any company, any agent?
Yeah, and that time we were doing for sale by owner. That was a good way to get a listing. So we did a lot. I always put up 25 signs and blah, blah, blah. We did a great open house. You don't sit down, you're ready. It's
Are you ready?
it's 2 o'clock. I'm always ready.
Okay, good. Let's give Gary a hand.
So Jerry Clancy is going to be our presenter today. Jerry's been in the business 23 years. But he came out of a real estate family. His father and mother and father owned a company, right?
Yes.
So owned a real estate company. So kind of like Brad. Remember you guys saw Brad? He came out of the real estate business.
Well, the difference is Brad gets all these great referrals from his dad, you know,
Yeah.
big, expensive houses. But you know what? I was fortunate to be raised in a real estate family. My parents, when I was 22 years old, told me that, Jerry, you know, you really need to come join the family business. But I really felt that I needed to be successful on my own before I took and joined the family business. So after about 10 years in another sales position, I joined it. And I wish I had gone back then. I wish I could have gone back and done it when I was 20. But you know, it's interesting. The second best decision I ever made was to get into real estate. And the first one was actually to join Keller Williams. I came from a company that was a mom and pop operation, but it was my mom and my pop. Okay? And so when Coldwell Banker took over that company, it became very corporate. Okay, I mean, so many things that you had to do, and just it was very corporate. So Tessa for 7 years tried to get me to come to this office, and so finally I came in and met with her again, and she showed me all the reasons I should, and that was the number one business decision I ever made, was coming to Keller Williams. This is only my second time actually doing Ignite, you know, and I can talk to 100 people in a day. The funny thing is, I'm actually a little nervous about doing this. So what I'm going to do is, Keller Williams has a syllabus that they'd like us to go through. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take and present that to you, but I'm also going to present some things from the front lines, things that I've done. Okay? Carol, do you want to set up? Let's set up and then we'll pass over.
Actually, I think she has the computer all set up for you, ready to go.
Okay. And she did just
Do you have a PowerPoint presentation?
No, just you're going to show the.
Do you want me to do it now?
No. Okay. So, for a show of hands, who is in their very first year of real estate? That is so exciting. That's so exciting. Okay. And you know, it's one of the great things. Sir. It's exciting because, you know, the world's full of all these possibilities for you, okay? And sometimes it's the easiest money that you'll make, sometimes it's the hardest money you'll ever make. But what you do make is you make a difference in these people's lives. And what we have to do is we have to keep in mind that it's not just a transaction to them. It's a place where their kids are going to come home from school to, okay? It's a place where they're going to wake up on a Saturday morning. And we can never forget that, okay? Because that's what they're entrusting us with. I'll let you know. So these are some of the things that Keller Williams would like me to share with you. We're fortunate. We live in a country of great opportunity. Our clients entrust us with the greatest financial asset that they have. And when we do it right, we're rewarded greatly. To succeed, you don't have to be the youngest or the brightest or the best dressed. What you have to be is you have to be the best you can be. And you know what? That's enough. We basically do two things in real estate. What is that? What are the two things that we do? Okay, that's a great answer. Wasn't what I was looking for, but that's a great answer. We'll get to that. Okay. What are the two things that we generally do in our business? What's that?
We speak a little loud.
Oh, okay, thank you. What did you say?
Buy and sell.
We buy and sell, okay? So we help buyers purchase their home and we help sellers sell, okay? What's the most important thing to a buyer? And this is audience participation.
Negotiate.
Say it again, please.
Negotiate.
Okay, we negotiate a good deal. And what else?
Yeah.
Okay. What else do we do that makes a difference to them?
If you're honest and they have to feel that you're by your side and you're honest, you're not trying to display. Actually, have good experience about it.
That's very important. They have to know that they're more important to you than any sale.
Yeah.
And I actually tell my clients that frequently. You're more important to me than any transaction.
Finding a dream home.
Finding the dream home. Finding the dream home. Can the dream home be different for different people?
Yes.
Okay. So a first-time home buyer, what's their dream home look like?
Starter.
Okay. Yes. Okay. And so it's a starter home. It's a fixer-upper. Dream home. What's that?
Whatever their dream is.
Yeah.
And that's exactly right. It's wherever they're at, and that's where we have to be able to come and meet them. Now, in today's market, what we have to do is we have to educate our buyers, both our first-time home buyers and the people that have been through this several times. Today's real estate market is challenging. One of the biggest reasons it's challenging is homes are selling at prices they've never gone for before. And we've had a little dip in the last 60 days, but we're still selling near record highs. And so other agents and buyers will look at the comps that you provide them and they'll go, I don't understand why if I want to buy this house, I've got to pay $40,000 more. Well, it seems in an appreciating market that every time a home sells, it establishes a new benchmark. And the next one's going to sell for a little bit more and a little bit more. We have to educate our buyers to understand in today's market, successful negotiation is being the one whose offer is accepted. Okay? And then hopefully you pay a fair price. Now they may think, hey, I'm paying at the top of the market, but in reality, if they think it's too high today, wait 60 days because the next one's going to be a little bit higher. Okay. What's important to sellers?
Most money.
I'm sorry?
The most they can get out of their house.
Okay.
Absolute high point.
Okay. The most amount of money. What else? Time frame.
In the lease amount.
Okay. In a short period of time. Okay. Sometimes they have a time period that's longer than what they need, isn't it?
The time frame.
In their time frame. Okay. What else is important?
Qualified buyer.
Oh, finding qualified buyers. Is that part of our job to take and to qualify the buyers that come in? That's really important when we're comparing multiple offers. Okay? A good offer consists of aspects other than just what the purchase price is. Keller Williams has done some research, and there are going to be 2 points that I'm going to ask you to write down. And anything you take away from this, these are the 2 points I want you to take away. It takes 7 times more effort and money to establish a new client than it does to keep a client who is already in love with you.
Say it again, Jerry, slower. For some other people.
It takes 7 times more effort and money to create a new client than it does to keep an existing client happy. And there's plenty of situations through a transaction that clients can be very happy with us, okay? There's other times they can be frustrated with us. And we're going to talk today about managing those expectations, okay? So sellers care about price. They care about price. They care about a smooth transaction. It's important that we educate both the sellers and the buyers about today's market, because if the buyers put offers in and it's not accepted and they do it once or twice, how do they feel? Discouraged, frustrated. Okay, absolutely. Okay, we have to educate them. It's probably the best thing we can do is tell them the reality in today's market. So that way they'll say, hey, a home purchase is a long-term proposition. So if it takes us 2 or 3 times to take and to get the right house, we're in it for the long run. Okay, and sometimes buyers have to lose a house to be able to really truly understand the market. What are the things that we can do to make our offers more attractive? Speak up.
Terms.
Terms. Okay. So we put good terms in it. What else?
Closing dates.
Okay, closing dates. Okay.
Solid.
Solid down payment. Excellent. Okay. Price, closing date, solid down payment. Come on, there's more.
Oh, yeah,
Strong
that
offer.
it shows up down payment, the paperwork, bank statement that shows down payment of the buyer,
Okay, so proof of funds.
proof of the
Good
funds,
proof of funds.
and good down payment, and solid offer.
Okay, you're all correct. But I will suggest that a good offer is more than just price. Okay, the buyer or the seller has to feel comfortable enough with us that they say, hey, if I'm going to be tied up for 30 or 45 or 60 days, I have to have confidence in the agent and in the buyer. So one of the things I'm going to suggest is that you find out what's important to that seller. So I'd say, hey Gary, my client saw your home on Creekwood, and they really, really love it. So we're going to put an offer together. But before we do, I'd like to ask, what's important to your seller?
Well, certainly the most money possible.
Okay,
Most
most
want
money
to make sure we close this transaction and we close it in time.
Okay, what would be the best time frame for your seller?
Well, we're looking at 30 days.
Okay, 30 days. Okay, would it be helpful if there was a possible rent back for them?
Rent back would be advantageous.
Okay, what would be the best case scenario for them?
Well, rent back at no cost to them.
Okay. Okay, good. We will take that under consideration. Okay. So Gary just told me what's important to his seller. Now, by a show of hands in here, has anybody used or seen a love letter to the seller?
Yes.
Okay. What do you think of that?
Yeah, they like it because they have this emotional attached to their house. They like to see like who's gonna come to their house.
Is that important?
Yeah.
Okay. And by show of hands, who else has used them? Who's used them? Okay. And how did it work out for you?
Worked out very well because my buyer was able to meet the seller, and so she was able to speak personally to the seller. But if I were the listing agents, I don't let that impact the decision who I choose. I tell the seller it is a love letter, but let's look at the offer specifically. Don't let that cloud your judgment. So it depends on how you decide you are.
I actually like that because you're showing both the emotional aspect and the financial aspect, and that's that's a sign of a good agent right there. Okay, but people that say, hey, I remember when we bought this home and the kids were just this small. She says, I'm gonna feel really good if I had another family comes in and loves the house just the way that we did. Never underestimate that. Okay, so do you ever use them yourself? I don't. I've used it a couple of times, and even on times when the offers did not get accepted, the buyers have said to me, Jerry, we really appreciate that you took and talked about us in the offer, and we didn't get at this house, but we know that you're going to get us the right house. And what this is doing is that's building the client loyalty. Okay, and a lot of these steps that we're going to go through today is about building client loyalty, because remember this: it takes 7 times more money to establish a new buyer than to keep an old one happy with us. Okay, this is part of what we do. Okay, is we use the seller love letters. What would you say that your greatest asset that you bring to the negotiation table? Okay. You've written an offer. What's your greatest asset that you bring to the table?
Market knowledge.
Market knowledge. Okay. Experience. Okay, so you're going to present. You're going to be presenting your offer to the seller. Now, do you remember the old days how we used to present offers? Okay, how did we do that?
You'd show up at Dallas and present them.
Yes, you would. Okay. Now, I actually worked 8 years in the luxury car business before I got into real estate. Okay. And you know how they wouldn't let you leave until you bought the car. Okay. We used to go over to their house, would present that offer, and they go, well, let us think about it. And did you ever say this one? Said, you know what? It is a great idea to think about it. There's a lot of things to consider. I've got some phone calls to make. I'm going to go out, sit in my car, and I'll be back in 20, 30 minutes. Is that okay? Did you ever do that? Yeah. Okay.
So we did that when the market was really hot and there could be another offer coming in. Can I just tell a quick story?
Yes.
Where we all used to present the offer, so I'm a listing agent. Actually, it was in the house that you were painting that I saw you on not too long ago. On Pathos.
Okay.
Second one in, you know what I'm talking about?
Chris,
I can't remember their name anymore. They were the sellers. Anyhow, so it was a short sale for my sellers, and somebody came in with the offer, wasn't the ones that actually got it. came in with the offer and was low. And they actually brought, this is why I didn't do love letters, because they brought a love letter in, the price was low, and my seller said, "You love my house? What are you talking about? Why is my..." But not only that, the wife disappears. She disappears. We think, maybe she's going off to the bathroom. We're there chatting, and she doesn't come down. She doesn't come down. The husband goes upstairs. She's up there drinking. Because it was a short, she got drunk. Because it was so, it was so emotional for her. They were losing money. Well, they weren't even losing this much, but they had lost all their down payment. And there was a short sale on the second we had. But sometimes we're sending offers. So we had to ask the agent to leave. And
Yes.
sometimes they went, "No, it's great."
And today,
Or you get somebody yell at you too.
oh yeah,
Seller, yeah.
I've been yelled at before. Okay. But today when we present an offer, okay, it's mostly online. We email it over to them. So we need to be able to take we need assets that we can do. So we talked about the aspects of a good offer, okay? Good down payment, good price. I'm going to suggest your number one asset in getting your buyer's offers accepted is your good reputation. Okay? I'm getting multiple offers on properties. Gary brings in an offer. I get one from you. I get one from you. And the seller's going to say to me, "All these offers are so similar. How do you pick one?" And I'll say, "Well, you know what? I know Gary. I've worked with him in the past. And what I know is he manages his buyer's expectations and his deals get done." Okay. Does that have worth to the seller?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay. When sellers are reviewing the offers that you've submitted, your good reputation is more important than anything else. Okay. And if we've educated our buyers correctly, they're going to be bringing in their offer with a good earnest money deposit. Okay. What's the best earnest money deposit you've ever had?
The best? 3%.
Okay. That's the best. Okay. The best I've had was $150,000. Okay. Mary Jo Atkins, when she was a rookie agent, she brought in a good faith deposit of $1.7 million.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
She did that inadvertently.
No.
How
no.
much was the house? 5 million?
No, it was like, I'm going to say 4 million.
1.8.
Yeah.
Yes, she does like.
Yeah. And so I'm going to say, bring in a good earnest money deposit. Okay. We're looking to differentiate themselves from all the other 9 offers that are on the table right now. Good earnest money deposit. Your buyers are protected, right? Protected if you go for a higher amount, because as long as they don't sign a increased deposit, they can only lose 3%.
They can only lose 3%.
Yes, they can lose 3%. And I will tell you this: in 23 years of practice, I've only had one person lose her deposit, and she deserved it. Okay, I represented buyer and seller, and she deserved it. Okay, so a good agent says, "Hey, you know what? You really want this house? Let's make a strong enough offer, strong enough good faith deposit, so that the seller knows that we're serious." Okay. When I learned this lesson, it was the first time I sold a big house, and he's a real estate attorney here in San Diego. And the first offer we got in was in a couple of days, and the offer came in. It was a decent offer, but they gave a $10,000 good faith deposit on $1.5 million house. Okay. And he says, "Jerry, can they even afford this house?" And I go,
Yeah.
"I hope so." Okay. And the second one came in at $20,000. And he goes, "Jerry, I don't even want you to bring me anything, okay, that's under like $50,000 for the good faith deposit." Okay. So I filed that away. About 2 weeks later, I had an open house, okay, and Stu and Teresa walked in, okay, and they said, "Jerry, we want to buy this house. What do we need to do?" Okay. They said, "Well, the first thing we need to do is we need to do a really good earnest money deposit." Okay. And he said, "What do you need, Jerry?" He says, 50,000, 100,000. I go, 50,000 should do it. So when I presented that offer to Carrie Gale, and I said, "Here you go." And he looked at, that was the first thing he looked at was the deposit, and he goes, "That's what I'm talking about." And I ended up doubling $1.5 million dollar house. And that back then, I was a starving real estate agent. Okay, and it made a big difference for our family.
It's a nice commission, yeah.
That was, yeah. That was actually, I was really when I first got into real estate, I left a job where I was making about $60,000. I had twin 1-year-old boys, and my wife was in chemotherapy. Okay, and we were struggling. Okay, my first year I made $12,000 in real estate, so I went from $60,000 to $12,000. But that happened, I don't know, 4 or 5 months later. Okay, and I remember I said, "Debbie, come here. And I said, "I want you to sit on the bed." And she sat on the edge of the bed, and I took all these $100 bills and I threw them up in there, and I let them flutter down. But it may not have been possible had I not listened to my seller about what was really important to them. Okay?
Communication.
Communication.
Yeah.
Okay, and how do you communicate?
You listen.
You listen. Listening is probably the most important thing that we do. And sometimes when we listen, okay, they're not telling us what we really need to know. So what do?
More questions.
Okay, and we ask open-ended questions, okay? Because if we said, you know, do you like this offer? They might just say no. Instead of saying, what is it about this offer that you don't like? And they're going to open up and give us more information to respond. Let me ask a question. What do you think is most important when a presentation is being done? You're making a listing presentation. What do sellers want from their agents? This is, and Carr actually did this survey. What do you want most from your agent when you're interviewing them?
Confidence.
Confidence, okay.
Trust.
Trust.
Negotiation skills.
Negotiation skills. This is what the seller said. They want a written marketing plan, okay? They want to know what you're going to do for them. And they also want an estimate of net proceeds, okay? So what I'd like to do is, Carol, are we ready to go? Okay. I'd like to introduce Carol Zimmerman from Fidelity Title.
Yeah.
She was my first title rep that I ever had 23 years ago. Okay. Back in the, remember the old days when we had to hand write out estimates and they give you little books?
I still do that. You're talking old days.
What you be talking about, Jerry?
Well, and I know Carol's trying to sell me on this program that they have, but you know, I can figure all that stuff. So
You know, not everybody's funny.
no, well, I don't
That's
know
all
like that. But I think it gives the client comfort that you know how to do that. So I usually do it right in front of me. I pull out my schedule out of my briefcase and use. That's good. I know that.
So the question is, Gary, do you bring out you give an estimate every time you do a listing presentation?
No, I don't.
Not every time. Do you do
No.
it? What percentage of the time?
Well, it just depends on where we're at in the process. You know, I mean, if I have no idea where they're going to go and listing it, and I may do one you got to be careful doing it for a price that
Yes. They don't want.
it's not going to get, because then they're going to expect more money
Right.
out of the property. So generally, I'll end up doing it when we get an offer on it.
Okay, that's it. And I actually do it. I give them an estimate, and sometimes, and I'll always ask them for about a listing presentation. What do you think the house is going to sell for? Okay, because I want to know where their mindset is, and if it's reasonable, I'll use that. But I usually will come out with three. I'll have three estimates. You know, I'll have them like a $10,000 spread. Okay, and I'll have the number that they gave me, I'll always put in the middle, so a little bit above, a little bit below. Carol's going to show us their Fidelity Title's net sheet for agents to use, and this is something that simplified my life because sellers want to know, hey Jerry, when you sell my house, how much am I going to get? Carol?
Thanks, you guys. Hey, I just want to tell you about this. This is our cost net sheet. It does buyers and sellers cost net sheets. And I know a couple of you guys have already set up. And the people that I have set up, who is using it? Okay. It's the #1 real estate app that's downloaded right now for real estate apps. So it's really, agents use it all the time. It's really a great program if you use it. And I'm going to tell you how easy it is. I don't know how you guys use if you guys do cost net sheets. Has anyone done a cost net sheet before not using this app? How have you done it before?
No, it's my mentor.
Okay, so how did they do it? Did they go through Santa Clara?
Yeah, Excel sheet.
They did through Excel? Well, this is a cost net sheet that you could do from 3 different devices. You could do it from your computer. You could do it from your cell phone. You could do it from your smart pad, your iPad. So it makes it super convenient because you always have your cell phone with you guys, and it's so easy to use. And within seconds, you can get a cost net sheet for your buyers and sellers. So you guys are probably working with a lot of buyers right now, and the best use of this is, let's say you have an open house, and let's say someone comes in and wants to know what their cost is going to be out of pocket per month, and what it's going to be for what they're going to have to come in to close the escrow. You could do it off your phone just within seconds, and then you could email it or text it. So if you text it, you could get their phone number, which is really cool. A good way to get someone's phone number and then be able to check back with them. Also, another great way this tool is good is if you show property, let's say you're showing a buyer on a Saturday or a Sunday and they want to see all the properties because they have to work during the week. Let's say they want to see as many as you can show them, and you show them 7 properties. Out of those 7 properties, just say maybe 2 or 3 they really like. And so you could go back to the office, or you could do it at that time, do a cost net sheet within seconds. And you could put up to 3 pictures onto the cost net sheet, which makes it nice because sometimes you get confused at what property goes to what house and what have you. So you can take your iPhone and you can take a picture of the house, and then you can take of any features that they say that they love in the house. And then when you go back and they say, I like the number 1, 3, and 5 house, you go back and pull those pictures up and insert them into this cost net sheet. And then they'll go, oh yeah, that's that one. And so you can do 3 different cost net sheets within seconds. You could do it there or afterwards, and it's a good way to touch base with your buyers. So I'm going to show you how easy it is to use this program. So here you have a quick estimate. You just put in the quick estimate, and then you go what price. I'm going to just do $500,000. And then here it is, 20%. Now you don't have, you could put in, you could just backspace and put 10%. You could put whatever percent. You could put a dollar amount. Let's say they're going to put in 50,000, 100,000 on this house, whatever it is. So it really caters to anything that you might come up upon. It also does conventional. It does FHA. So if I push FHA, you'll see that it goes to 3.5% down. If I do VA, it immediately does 0, which is what VA requires. And so we're going to do conventional just because that's the one that I'm going to put. If you ask your client what they have, let's say they got pre-qualified by a lender and this isn't the rate, you could put the actual rate that they have gotten from their lender. And we're going to do 30-year term. And if there's anything that might be added or subtracted that they might get, let's say, I don't know, just something that they might add or subtract, they might get through the transaction. You could click onto the will and you could actually add it in there and say this is going to be a cost or this is going to be something they're going to gain from it.
Excuse me, Carol. Is that where you'd put like solar, if they had to assume the cost of solar?
You could put that, yes. You could put the solar cost right in there. Absolutely. So you put it in, let's say solar, whatever it might be, because that's going to be a cost in what their monthly payment will definitely be. And so that might be a good one. Good question. Hazard insurance, we already have that in there for them. Property tax. So San Diego property tax is 1.25, but other areas are different property tax, believe it or not. So we have it all in here. If you just click onto the wheel right here, it'll go through and show you the different property taxes within different areas in the county of San Diego. Now, if you work in an area that you know that it's different than, and you don't see it here, and it's not the 1.25 of San Diego, it allows you to be able to add that, and then you can always refer back to that, and you won't ever have to add it if you could make it a default type thing. And then you have the HOA. So you put HOA, so we could do it monthly or annually. So everybody knows they're monthly. So we could just add, let's just say that they have a $300 monthly HOA. And then you just click here and say it's going to close. Let's just say it's going to close in a month. So we're going to go here. Oops, we're going to close and we're going to make it on the 27th. We're going to go okay. Immediately does it. So now if you want to see all the costs, you could just push this little button and it goes through all the different costs that they're going to occur and what's it on the cost net sheet, and then you go compute. And within seconds, as you can see, it really doesn't take long. If I wasn't talking, it would take you I could do it in probably 2 seconds. It will give you what their monthly payment will be and what their out-of-pocket for closing will be. And if you compare this to the escrow cost when they do it, it's very, very close. So I ask you to go get one from your escrow company and then compare ours, and you'll find that it's very, very close to what ours is. And this is just an estimate for them. And you tell them it's an estimate. You don't want to say this for sure what the costs are, but this is close to what it's going to cost to get into the house. And you could do it like when you're on the golf course, you're getting your nails done, you could do it within seconds. So you don't have to be in front of your computer. Everyone has their cell phone. So it makes it super easy. The part about it, so we're gonna, this little button right here, like if you, let's say they they got, especially in this market, in this market where, you know, people are accepting offers higher, they're going higher. So if you have to offer 10,000 more, 20,000 more, buyers get into a tunnel and they say, no way am I going to want to pay 10,000 more or 20,000 more. So this kind of puts it in perspective. When you break it down over 30, amortize it over 30 years, you only really are paying a very slight amount per month more. And so you could show them that really is not going to cost you that much more. And you could do increments of, depending on 5,000 or 10,000, you just push the wheel right here and it changes it. So I'm going to go back. And then we're going to send it. So you could text it. Oh, sorry, I'm on a computer. You could just email it. But on your phone, you could text it to them and you can email it, or you could send it and you could print it. And you could change any of these colors. So you could make it red for Keller Williams. You could do any other colors that are your colors too to make it pop. So that's pretty much, and as you can see, it really makes it nice little presentation. You could put and you have your picture and all your information in there. So that's pretty nice. It does have, if you have one where, let's say you want it to be in a different language. So if you still have someone that is more comfortable with Spanish, Chinese, German, you can change it within seconds. I've just pushed, let's do Spanish, and it changes it all into Spanish. Let me go back. Let's see what it's going. Oops. Oh, it did it. See, it's all in Spanish, as you can see. I'm going to change back to English so I can read it. Do you see how it's changed into Spanish? Yep. You don't?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So it's really intuitive. It's super easy to work with. And it's the same with the seller CostNet sheet too. I'm going to show you just one last thing for the buyer though. So you could just push the house, go back. And go buyer. This one's the PITI. So a lot of times people will say what they are pre-qualified for. So let's just say they're pre-qualified for 2,500. You put that in, and now you could just compute it and say compute. They'll tell you what they could afford with so much put down, with 20%, 5% to 20% down. Makes it really easy for you guys. So.
Any questions for Carol?
It does the seller one also, and it's very similar to that, but you see how easy it is, really easy. So a lot of times you'll get, CostNet from your escrow company, and if you haven't seen the house before, if you're going for a listing presentation, a lot of times you haven't seen it. It might be in great condition, it might be in bad condition, it might be, okay, and you might not have a CostNet sheet if you get it beforehand with the right, because if it's, way over upgraded, you're gonna be able to get more money for it. If it's not as nice and you need a lot of fixing up, you might have to have it downgraded a little bit. So it makes it nice to be able to do it right in front of them and show them what they could get for their home too. So this really is nice. If you guys wanna this, I will sit down with you guys. Just let me know, okay?
So if you'd like to do this, give Carol a card. She'll set a time.
I have a card, and you guys have my information. I have a lot of you guys set up on it already, so it's kind of like a little.
So Carol's been my title rep for 23 years, and I don't know if you remember how you became that agent or my rep.
I remember calling on you when you were with your mom and dad.
Yeah, and so in the old days, we had to take and use a little book and do our net sheets. Okay, it was important to sellers back then, as it is today. And I got everything right, and then we're getting ready to close escrow, and I missed it by like $300 on the title fee. And I go, Carol, I made a mistake here. Can you show me can you show me what I did wrong here? And you were able to show me what it was wrong. And you go, and this is my very first transaction, okay? And she goes, you know what, Jerry? You're learning. Don't worry about it. I'll take care of it. and you took care of it. She picked up like the $300 thing, and my client was happy, or coming up with.
That's how we could do that kind of stuff.
And that's how. That's
Yeah,
how.
do
Now we
that.
can't
That
do
was the
that.
old days.
Those are the old, good old days, I'll tell you.
Okay.
He said, if you don't want the 300, I'll do your marketing.
Yeah, yeah. Do you remember the good old days?
Yes, I do.
Okay. So remember, I said they're going to be. Carol, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I want to tell you that there's two things. Yeah. Let's go ahead and
I could show you within a few minutes, okay?
So as we segue, can you hand these?
Yes.
So we know that there's two things that are important to a seller. What they want is they want to know what their net proceeds are going to be, and what was the other thing? They wanted a written marketing plan. Okay. So how many of you have done listings in here so far? Okay. Well, Jerry, do you use a marketing planner? Why, yes, I do. Okay. So I want to tell you this, that when you go out there with your CMA, okay, you want to have in there, you want to have your printed out net sheet, okay? You want to show them, if you're charging them 6% to sell their house, you want to show them what you're going to do. It makes their objections a lot harder for them to stand by when they see everything that you're doing. But I wanted to show you that sellers and buyers get really nervous because there's so many steps in the real estate transaction. So I want to show you, this is the timeline that I use. And so, you know, buyers go, you know, Jerry, hey, we put our money in escrow. What's next? And I said, well, I want you to go ahead and refer to your timeline here to see that the seller has 17 days after acceptance, or actually 7 days after acceptance to give us all of their disclosures. Okay, and I have them, as we go through the transaction, buyer or seller, I always have them say, hey, just want to let you know that we got the CC&Rs and we sent them over to the buyer, so I want you to check that box. So then the buyers go, wow, you know, we're making steady progress on this. They go, hey, I know exactly what's next. Okay, and so that's why I use this. It is also really helpful for me. You know, if you get 4 or 5 or 7 escrows going at one time, and someone calls up and says, hey, Jerry, you know, hey, when do I have to have the termite inspection done? You know, you can go, oh my God, you got to boot your computer up. Or no. Instead, what I do is I keep the timelines in my day timer, okay? And I can just open it up and I go, deadline's on Friday, okay? And they like that. And when we're calm, our clients are calm. And just by following this, you know, makes it easy. Now, if you email me, I'll actually email you a blank one of these that doesn't have my contact information on it, so it'll be easy for you to use. And I'll tell you, if I have time when I'm doing it, filling it out, I'll actually use DocuSign, because I'll just drag over the dates and everything there. It makes it easier. Otherwise, I just handwrite it. Okay. So that's what's important. Timeline is important to both buyers and sellers, but the needs for each of them are different. They each have different responsibilities. So real quick, I'm going to deal some cards here. So it's important that we manage expectations. And so buyer comes in and said, hey, I stretched as far as I could to get this house now. Now I have this inspection, and I'm concerned. I'm concerned because there's you know, there's termites. Okay. I'm concerned because the garage door is broken. Okay, what am I going to do about this? And so they're going to put together a request for repairs. And the seller goes, wait a second, I accepted an offer lower than what I wanted here. You know, I have to, you know, I don't want to have to pay an extra $2,000 for repairs. And so what we do is we can manage their expectations by doing this. Are you familiar with the term pre-sale considerations? Have you heard that? What that means is things that we're going to take care of before a buyer is in there. We can do a walkthrough with a seller in a house and say, your home is going to be inspected by a professional inspector. Here are the things that he's going to find. Okay, you go walk through the house, okay, and say, we can take and wait for them to ask for us to do it, or we can take care of it right now. The advantage for us taking care of it right now is that we get added value added to the house. I'll give you an example. So if they say, oh my God, look at this carpet, it's hideous, it's going to cost us $20,000 to replace it. Okay, and we say to the seller, you know what? I've actually got a really good carpet company. They will actually, you don't have to pay them up front. They just pay them through escrow. And that what the buyer's saying is going to cost 20 grand for us to get the new carpet, you get done for 12,000. Okay. All of a sudden, instead of taking money off of the offer that the buyer was going to make, the buyer's adding, they're going, wow, it's got brand new carpet in it. So we get added value by not having to take and to put it, you know, by getting a lower price or having to fix it to the buyer's taste. We do it up front. And this is going to be, we're going to do this for termite. We want to get our termites done, the inspection and the clearance before a buyer's involved. Because if you have I sell a lot of homes in an area where there's twin houses, okay, and they share a common attic. So sometimes if there's termites in the attic, the seller will go to their neighbor next door who's always been friendly and said, hey, we got termites up here. It's going to cost me $4,000 to do it. Would you be willing to get yours done too? And they're going to say, oh, hell no, I'm not going to do it, okay? And so what happens is sometimes the person that has the house that's being sold ends up paying for the whole thing. But if you do it this way, if you get it done ahead of time, you may be able to take and go to another termite inspection that goes, we do local treatment. We can get in here with electricity. We can get in here with orange oil. We can spray all these topical things in here that you don't have to take and fumigate both houses. Okay? And so all of a sudden, instead of taking and handing the buyer an estimate that says $4,000, you're saying, here's the clearance. It's already done. Okay? Never underestimate the pre-sale considerations. That will save your clients money. It will save deals. Okay? I just had one where the seller cut a big storage hole in the garage and it went underneath the stairs. And I told him, you have to fix that up. And Jerry, I'm not going to do it, not going to do it. Escrow got held up 2 days because he didn't do it. He says, no, the lender won't fund until you've got a clearance on this one single item because it was a safety fire code violation. So your timeline right here is going to help you keep on track. When people go, hey, everything's progressing just the way it worked. You know, I don't have to worry because I know that I don't have to do anything. Now, it's important that as we go through the process that we tell our clients always what's next. And be able to say, you know, I want you to know that the buyer's going to do their final walkthrough 5 days prior to close of escrow. So we have to have all the repairs done before that. Okay? And I'll say, do you need help? You'll see me a lot of times rolling up my sleeves and getting things done. I've got 2 clients, 80 and 87 years old in Pennsylvania right now. Okay, they said, Jerry, you said you could help us. Could you help us move a couple of boxes downstairs? I would be happy. Okay, a couple boxes, 22 boxes. And so we have to help them wherever they're at. We need to help them. And what we're interested in is building long-term clients. In 23 years in the business, I've been blessed to have hundreds of clients. And several of those clients have done repeat business with me, but there are others that have not. You know whose fault that is? That's my fault. That's my fault for not staying in contact. But when we take and manage the escrow, so they say, hey, you know what? I didn't have to worry about that. Jerry always told me what was next, what I had to do. Okay? They're gonna say, hey, he was in control the whole time, and that goes a long ways when they're making a referral, or they're taking and calling you again. So once we've closed escrow, it's a chance for us to take and to say thank you. Okay? And every year when I do my business. My business plan, the #1 item says say thank you, okay? And because I love my clients. I will move things for them. I'll roll up my sleeves. I'll do whatever it takes for my clients. But sometimes I will get so busy because I got other transactions that are going. You know, I'll give them the keys to their house, and then we kind of we don't talk to each other anymore. Okay, and that's my fault. We had an agent that we used to work with. Do you remember Candy Hogan? Sure. No, Candy? Okay. So Candy is such a, she's just so, there's no facade on her. What you see is what you get, okay? And I talked to her, I said, you know what, God, I had these clients, I loved them, we spent 3 months together. You know, now I only talk to them like once a year, like at Christmas time. And what Candy said to me was this, you know, Jerry, what I tell my clients is, we're together for a good time, not a long time. And that's true, okay? But I want to take and remember that it takes 7 times more money to take and keep an existing client happy than create new ones. So as we get towards the end of the transaction, okay, and we do our final walkthrough, and day comes and it's closing day. And so I keep them posted. I just want to call and let you know that the loan funded this morning. We will close today, and I expect confirmation from Carol, okay, between 4 and 6 o'clock today. And when I get that call, I'm going to call and give you the woohoo message. And they go, Jerry, what's the woohoo message? And I go, well, you know it when you hear it. And okay, so when I call them, and I go, they go, hi, Jerry. I go, woohoo! They go, what? I go, we closed escrow. And they'll go, woohoo! And I'll hear the wife, what's that? It's Jerry, you know? And so they're so excited on it. This is a big deal. We may take in, sell 3 houses, 4 houses a month, but to them, this is so important, okay? So what I do is, I keep in mind how important this is. So all of my clients, okay, I give them this. I want you to take a look at this and just pass it on. Okay? We'll start back here. And just pass this on. And what this is this is a silver keychain. And what I engrave on the back is their names and the date of closed escrow. Okay? And I will see people, 3 years later, they're selling it. I said, okay, do you have keys? They go, yeah, Jerry, I have keys right here, and it's still in the same, it's the same keychain. It'll be scratched up and stuff. If the couple has something funny, I have some clients. They're the biggest Star Wars nerds you can imagine. Okay, so one of them is Han Solo, the other one's Princess Leia. It was on there. What I printed on there, and they love that. Okay, so I make good presentation and I give them the keys. And sometimes I'll meet them there at the house, but other times I like to do it away because I have another surprise with them. And so what I do is in the living room, okay, I'll put a little card on the fireplace. And in the kitchen, I'll put on like the microwave, I'll put another card there. So they go, oh look, it's a card. It's from Jerry. And where's my kitchen one? Oh, walk to the kitchen one. They go, it's a card, and it says, "I'm not cooking tonight." Okay. So what's inside here?
Gift card.
To what?
Restaurant.
To a restaurant. Okay, and they love that. Okay. Sometimes what I'll have is if I know that they enjoy a good bottle of wine. Okay, I will take and I'll have wine there. I'll get a couple of like inexpensive glasses, have them set there. I'll have if they have kids, I'll have some cute little sodas for them too. Okay. In the master bathroom, I've got this. Honey, where's my towel? Okay, what's in here?
Bed Bath & Beyond.
Bed Bath & Beyond gift card, okay? And I typically do like $50 here. I'll do enough for a good dinner for dinner for 4. And the fireplace, they're buying this big home. They've got a 4-bedroom house now, and they're moving to the condo. And so I'll put this over the fireplace. And this one says, we're going to need some more stuff. Okay, what's in here?
Fire shovels.
Yeah, it's a gift card that'll let them go get whatever they need. And sometimes when we have staging and stuff done, they'll go, oh, I really like this. I'll find out where it's at. Like it was a place my wife is not allowed anymore. There's a place downtown, and they have all sorts of really high-end stuff. What's that? No, it'll come to me. Anyways, so if she likes this thing, I'll clip a picture out of it. I'll take a picture out of it. I'll put the gift card into there. And then the kids go to their bedrooms. Kids go to their rooms, and in Brandon's room, actually this is Bailey's room. Okay, there's a card there, and they open it up, and it says, "Buy yourself something cool for your room." What's in here? Yeah, like Toys R Us gift card. Okay. And so, like a Toys R Us gift card. And so and so these people call me up from the house, and they go, Jerry, we got to the house, and we love the scavenger hunt, and they'll talk about that over the years, and it's just showing them how much that we care.
Around how much you spend for like?
$250. Now, if I have something, life at my house is very hectic. And my wife doesn't get to take and relax as much as she should. I saw something once. I was in Coronado, and what it is, it's a gondola ride. We've never been to Venice, okay? But they have these gondolas that go through the caves, which are these multi-million-dollar houses on the bay. And you sit there, and then you can bring wine, you can bring fruit. So we're sitting there, and this gondola is paddling us along. And I asked Debbie, I go, how do you feel? She goes, I haven't been this relaxed since I don't remember. So I get that from my clients, and they send me pictures of them. They say, Jerry, this was so it was so romantic. It just really let us relax. And if it's a big house or a client that I really like, I'll also buy him a gift certificate to Piojes. And that's it. That's in Coronado. And people, wow, it's such a thing. So Jerry, we can't wait to buy our next house for you.
So their friends.
What's that?
And their friends.
And their friends. And that gets us to, sorry.
Will you represent me when I sell my home?
Done. And so, what was your question?
No, I said their friends are going to be told all about what a wonderful thing you did there.
Yeah, and see, this is what it's about. It's about managing their expectations, letting them know what's next, letting them know that they're more important to you than any house sale, that you'll roll up your sleeves to get things done, okay? And then at the end, what we do is we ask them, you know, is there anything that I could have maybe done better for you? In fact, what we do is we'll give them a survey. Where's my mouse?
Stand over there.
Thank you. These are the first things that have ever made me feel old. Sorry, having to start wearing glasses. Okay, so I'm going to pass out this survey to you, and this is something that Keller Williams has created, and they suggest that we have just take one and pass it back. Okay. And I want you to go ahead and fill this out on yourself. I want you to think about your last transaction. Okay. Now, if you haven't sold a house yet, okay, I want you to just go ahead and fill it out as if you have. And I did one for myself. So I want you to take a minute and do that. Once you finish the survey, I want you to average them, if you can. You should be able to average it someplace between 0 and 10. Just average it and see what the number you come up with is. And when you're done, I want everybody to look up. Are we done? Almost? Okay. What are some of the numbers that you got? What is your average number? I'm sorry, 10? Did I hear a 10?
I heard a 10, yeah.
Okay, good. Okay.
9.6.
9.6? 8. 10. Good. I like it. Okay, so we're seeing anything from what was the lowest point at 8?
9.6.
Okay. Yeah, I got an 8.2. Okay, and this was a really difficult transaction we had. I recommended a handyman that I had to take and physically separate these people because my seller and him were fighting. And I go, you know what? I'm going to stop going with the person that's necessarily the best price and go with the best contract. So it's important that we take and understand that a career in real estate is a lot like sailing a boat. We're getting on a boat today and we're going to sail to Catalina. Okay? We know the direction that we have to go. But we also know that wind and currents are going to push us off track. And we're going to have to make some mid-course corrections. That's what our career is. Be brave enough to ask the question. Okay? Say, hey, I'd like to know how you felt about what I did for you. Was there anything extra that I could have done that would have made the transaction even better for you? Okay? And then thank them for that. Okay? Because when we're asking the hard questions, the questions that reflect on us, okay, they're going, he really does care about me. Okay, he really does listen to me. I'm going to pass out a form here. This is a utility transfer form. So if you just take one and then pass it back. And so when they say, hey, we're closing escrow on Friday, well, you need to know that the seller's got to turn off their electricity, okay, turn off their water, and if you and the seller and the buyer do it, consecutively. The seller goes first, and the buyer does. The buyer won't have any extra fees. They won't have any, disconnect or reconnect fees. And so this just lists the cable companies and the utility companies. So you can just give this to them, okay? You get the last week before close escrow, say, this is the date that the possession takes effect. I want you to go ahead and make these calls. Okay? So once we've delivered the keys to them, once we have said thank you to them, we need to be able to stay in touch with them. Okay? So I'm going to challenge you to take and to say, I'm going to take and call my clients once every 3 months or once every 6 months. And I'm going to take and I'm going to send out a postcard or a thank you note or something like this so that I have touches, okay, a minimum of 9 times a year, okay? It's minimum, okay? Some people do 12, some people do 18 times a year, these touches. But I want to share with you the thing that I got, that I came up with, and this is the thing that is giving me the most positive feedback. What this is I use this as a thank you note. I will also do these as a we're moving car. Okay. And what this is this is a picture of the house that they just bought. Okay. And you can go online and there's programs. There's programs that'll just put it through a watercolor filter. Okay, I get so much positive feedback on this. I mean, people just love it. And you know what it cost me? It cost me like $1, including postage, each one.
Where's that?
Have you guys seen it yet?
I know.
Oh, not yet? Oh, yes.
What is that?
There's several of them on there. I don't remember which one it was. All you got to do is look for a watercolor filter. And if you've got my information on these sheets, if you like, you can just email me and I can send it to you. So I told you there were 2 takeaways that I wanted you to take from this. One is, what was the first one? What was the first takeaway? Martin. No.
7 times.
The 7 times rule. Okay, Charlie, tell us what that is again.
7 times more effort. It takes 7 times more effort and money to obtain a new client than to retain a previous client.
Exactly. Okay. I've lost, I can't say millions, but I've lost hundreds of thousands because I didn't stay in contact with my clients. Now, on the other hand, I've also gained some money because all the other agents are doing it too. Okay. But that was my money that I lost. The second thing I want to tell you is that.
Jerry,
sure.
I need to say one quick thing. So NAR says that 67% of the past clients would use their previous agent if they just knew where they were at.
That's exactly what it's going to say. So yeah, so this high percentage of people that have bought a home through you or sold a home through you said, I would definitely use them. I would use them again. But you know the reason why only 8% do is because we lost contact with it. Okay, so it is so important to do this, to say thank you. Okay, to always let them know what's next on the list that they have to do. Okay, and then follow up with them and ask them what could I have done better. And you know it would really help me. Do you have any friends of yours that you think that I might be able to help? and we need to ask for referrals. Okay? All right. I want to thank everybody for coming. Do you have any questions or anything that I can answer?
I kept hearing the 7th thing after that was the first thing. What was the second?
Okay, the second thing is that actually this is the statistics. NAR reports that 88% of clients say they would use their previous agent again, but in reality only 12% do. 88% said yeah.
That's gone up.
Yeah. So 88% says absolutely I'd use Jerry again, but in reality only 12 do. You know why? It's because I lost track of them. They didn't lose track of me.
They stay in touch. They want you to do.
Yeah, I've been fortunate because I've got a very small farm in Pennsylvania. There's 269 houses, but I've sold over 100 of those houses. Yeah, it's good. It's good market share. Okay. But I think of some of the things that I've learned from the pros in the business, like Gary, like Dan Christensen. He's killing it right now. Brian Hoffman said to me, he says, Jerry, you want to double your production? And he goes, just double your price point. Okay, that's really good. That's really good advice. So we're fortunate because of the culture here in Keller Williams. We don't have problems sharing with each other. There's so much business that's out there. There's so many people that need our help that we can take and help each other. And I may be able to share an idea with you now, and you're going to come back and say, Jerry, says I just tried something and it really worked out nicely. Okay? I want to say thank you everybody for coming. Okay.
Thank you, Jerry. So where did you just send a picture, Gary, of the?
There's filters on the internet, and just put on like watercolor filter, and you
load your picture.
You load your picture
and watercolor it and print.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, you do it yourself.
And you just write it.
Yeah, or just on your computer if you have a good.
Now
you do it here, or do you do it at home?
Well, I had Kate do it, so she left. And so you know, in terms of these, I had her print up a whole year, actually 2 years in advance. So I've got two card cases.
So specific for that house.
For that month. That month, I know that I've got to mail it out. Okay. Now, what I tell you else, what I just started doing is I'm doing these that you open it up and it says we've moved. Okay, and it tells the new address that the client has moved to, and on the back of those, I actually have all my contact information, phone number, email, and haven't started receiving anything on that yet, but we expect we will. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Jerry. Very nice. Nice job. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Should we leave? No.
Take a break, maybe.
All right, we're good.
Any more questions? One more question.
It's always good to.
Well, you put a lot of stuff with you too, huh?
Yeah.
We need a little.
No. This is not mine.
I know it's mine.
Oh, I can't got my stuff all over here. Yeah. Oh, they love it because it makes a grand presentation when you hand them the key. Okay, how much you think these gold or these silver keychains cost?
$4.
You guys look. Huh? Yeah, $4.
I didn't look, and I was pretty good.
Yeah.
I said.
Yeah. The little realtor store.
Okay.
You know, the realtor store in Rancho Bernardo.
Oh, yeah.
But you can also go to. I'm sure you can get it down pretty.
Where do you get them engraved?
I get them engraved wherever I can. Okay. There's a place in Poway that I use. They recently sold. But where I can go, the challenge of these is you want to put the close of escrow date on it. So sometimes you have to wait till the day it's going to close escrow. But it's a good presentation. They go, oh, this is so nice. And then they go into the house and they go, look at all these, look at the scavenger hunt.
And they also customize it. They put their date and everything for us.
The date and the name, yes.
You have to do that, Galina. You have to go out and find somebody that will engrave it for you.
Oh, so
You buy these and then you go and have them engraved.
And let me ask you, and how long do they carry this for? They carry this for a long time.
Even if they don't carry it with them, they hang it up somewhere so they think of you all the time. So another great marketing. Just a way to remember who you are.
Yep. So we need to stay in contact with them, but these little reminders that we give them like this, and it makes a difference.
They don't necessarily have to have your info for them to remember. You just
No.
assume they'll remember.
Yeah, in terms of this, because I didn't want to clutter it, it has a house on it, and they'll make the association.
No, they'll think. Especially if you're peppering them through the year.
Yeah. All right, class dismissed.
No, no, no.
Oh, no.
That would be a big trouble if they didn't.
Okay.
Okay,
How much longer?
1 hour.
Oh,
You want to go further? You got more to talk about?
I'm gonna watch you on the tape.
Oh, geez.
I think.
Go ahead.
Okay, well, I got to get back to my page here. That's what what to do here. Okay, so, Jerry talked a lot about what to do to keep the client up to date. We talked earlier, if you look on page 18 and 19, there's a checklist. There's our checklist that can tell you kind of how the process goes. You can use, well, if I were you and being a new agent, I'd be studying this because this is going to certainly help you with understanding the process and when you need to be talking to your clients and alerting them that there's something coming up that needs to be done. What's going to happen right up front in the process is you get the offer accepted, escrow has to get open. Now your buyer has to get their deposit money in. You want to make sure you tell them that because it needs to be in within 3 days. I would be reminding them, you need to have your deposit in, on Monday, because if they don't, we talked about this earlier, you get, smart agents will give you a notice to perform, so it ends up the last day on Monday, and if you don't do it, then they have a right to cancel on Tuesday. So if they've got another offer in, then they can cancel this transaction. So you want to make sure you're up on all the dates. Create some kind of a system. Now, the transaction coordinator will give you the deadlines for many of these things, but there are going to be other things that they're not going to tell you about. They're just going to give you when the removal of contingent, when the deposit should be in, when the removal contingencies are, contingency 1 and 2, which is your appraisal and all your inspections, and then your loan is the second one. But that's it. There's a lot of stuff that goes on in between that. You've got to get inspections ordered. You've got to, get it set up. Typically, you've got to coordinate that between your clients and the home inspector. They're not going to know who the home inspectors are. I usually give them 3 referrals, and I tell them there's one I use in particular. You use anybody you want. This is who I used, and this is why. Many times they'll use that particular inspector, and then I'll set it up for them. When are you available? Or I'll call and find out when there's a time frame open, and then call them. When I'm the selling agent, I always show up for the inspection, so you need to know when that's going to be. Usually going to take you 3 hours plus to do the inspection, depending on the inspector. Yeah.
Biggest advantage is you showing up with the inspector to make sure that he doesn't miss anything. You're the selling agent. Inspector's coming for the seller or the buyer, buyer's inspector.
For the buyer, it's the buyer's inspector.
So you
You do a physical inspection for the buyer.
You walk there with him because.
Well, I'm there. I usually I'll let the buyer walk with them. I'll do my visual inspection at that time. And
you do your business.
I don't get involved. I let the buyer and the seller, or the buyer and the inspector communicate. But I'm always there for the summary, so I can ask any questions. Being a civil engineer, I have a little bit of knowledge about construction, and so I can maybe help the buyer understand. Or the reason I want to be there is because the buyer gets the report and they're reading it. I want to have an understanding of what the inspector said, so I can help the buyer walk through it. I can help them with request for repairs. This is not a major thing. This is. I even show up as a listing agent. So I show up at the very end so I can hear what the summary is on the property. Typically, the way a home inspection goes is you're going to order it, and obviously you show up there. they do the inspection and then they'll summarize. And I always tell my buyers to walk with them, but the inspector is still going to summarize at the very end. So, you know, remember I told you about this, or some, you know, some buyers get there and they don't follow along, which I would rather have them do. They're off measuring because they're excited about where the furniture is going to go, how big of a refrigerator do we need, or is our refrigerator going to fit? So they're there for the summary. And a lot of times the inspector will walk them around the house, show them where the shutoff is for the gas, show them where the shutoff is for the water, you know, show them the electrical panel. You know, if there's anything wrong in any of those, they'll talk to them about it. But you, as a listing agent, when you get in a request for repairs, if you haven't, what is the inspector as to what he meant by this terminology that he's using, you have a hard time explaining to your client. And so that's why most listing agents don't show up, but I always do. And the reason is I want to be able to explain to my client, or if I don't understand something, I want to be able to ask the inspector the questions. You know, you got to know these inspectors are general inspectors. They're going to, some of them make more statements than others do. And what I mean by that, they make statements such as, you know, this needs to be fixed or this needs to be fixed. And I don't think that's appropriate in my opinion. They need to say, this is the situation. Don't make recommendation as to what should be done or not be done. But they do. And so you got to sometimes overcome that when you're working with you're the listing agent and you get a request for repairs in of something that doesn't really need to be, not a major thing to be fixed. So you can then maybe diffuse that somewhat, or get your client to do it because of the information you got from the inspector. And then, you know, once you do that, and you've got the request for repairs you got to deal with, you get a response back on that. In the meantime, you're getting preliminary title report in that you need to be reviewing. You're getting all of the disclosures in. You should be looking at the disclosures as well. You want to be looking at the red flags. You've got like I said, I do mine at the inspection when I'm the selling agent. But as a listing agent, you need to get that. You need to get your agent's visual inspection done relatively quickly because the new contract says until that's complete and all the questions have been answered legibly on the TDS and the SPQ, that it's deemed that they haven't been received. Remember that if it's not been complete and new information comes up, information would show up. So let's say the seller, you know, did a terrible job and answered only 3/4 of the questions. And now you're 2 weeks down the road. Let's say you're 3 weeks down the road. And you've removed all your contingencies, okay? And the seller then now gives you the TDS that has new information on it that would be considered a material fact. You have 3 days right to require us, 3 days right to rescind your contract. So as a listing agent, you want to get your ABID done really quickly. So you can include that along with the TDS, and so you're not holding up the process. Because if the buyer gets the seller's TDS, SPQ, whatever other disclosures you give them, and then your ABID comes in later, that 3 days starts to run then. Now, most of the time, you're not going to be disclosing any information that the buyer didn't already know. But maybe, let's say there's something going on in the neighborhood. You know the neighborhood really well. The seller, you know, has only lived there a year or 2 years and might not know that, didn't put it on the TDS, and you bring in some new information. So, you know, you may cause that deal to go awry. So you want to make sure you get that done in a timely manner. So, I mean, all this stuff is just taking place in the first 17 days. And then you got to make sure that they remove their contingencies on time, you know, that they've removed their inspection contingencies. But one of the other things I wanted to say, you got to make sure that you read, review, and question the preliminary title report and the natural hazard disclosure. So you make sure that you get a copy of the natural hazard disclosure, that you look down through the statement. You're going to be, as the listing agent, you're going to be signing that. As a selling agent, you don't sign, but as a listing agent, you'll be signing the natural hazard disclosure. So you want to have the information. You want to be able to explain that. Let's say that there's a question on it. Then you want to have the opportunity to call the geologist at whatever NHD company you have hired and talk to them about what the situation is. Let me give you a prime example. So, as I told you, I worked a lot in Pennsylvania, throughout this area. You're going to find when and generally it's going to be in the local area disclosures. You get a natural hazard disclosure, you're going to get state required disclosures. And a lot of those maps are not been complete when it comes to seismic. And seismic is really basically the shaking of the ground. And there's a condition called liquefaction, where the ground gets almost liquefied when you have an earthquake. So many of the, and landslides. So many of the areas in Penasquitos were built on old canyons, and there were bluffs. Now that's been all leveled out, but it's going to show up on your maps, both local and the state, that those are landslide areas. You got to have that conversation with your client. If you're just looking at it today and they've got the question, you're going to have a hard time answering unless you're not. I've done so many of them. I know, what it says, but you still need to know. And once the client comes, you haven't looked at the natural hazard disclosure, and the client comes back and says, "Oh, it's in a floodplain." Don't you want to be able to talk to him about it? Yeah, it's in a 500-year floodplain. We used to have a 1,000-year one in Houston. So, it used to be, we don't worry about that too much. But today, who knows? But so you can at least address some of those issues. Maybe they don't notice it, and you say, "Hey, did you notice that you were in a 100-year floodplain? It might be a little hard to get insurance here. Let's get on the phone and talk to the insurance company." That's the other thing that you want to be doing. You got to tell your clients right up front. Remember, part of their contingency is the inspection and investigation, including the ability to get insurance on the property. What happens if you've removed your contingencies and now you can't get insurance on the property? You got a problem.
I always tell my clients first thing to call their insurance.
That's right. Call your insurance company.
See if you can get insurance.
And let me say one other thing while we're talking about that. You're going to see something. It's kind of gone away now, but there used to be a report. The name just slipped. Oh gosh. Clue report. There used to be a report called a clue report. And you'll still have some, if you're a listing agent, some selling agents ask for that. The seller can get a free clue report. We used to pay for them. They were $20. But you don't really need to do that because, as Charlie just said, tell your client to call the insurance company right off the bat. They're going to run through the same company. It's not called a clue report for them because they want to know if there's been mostly water damage. They want to know if there's been any water claims on the property. And then they'll look at the area to make sure that you can get the fire insurance and all of that. But you want to, that could present a problem for you people. So there's a lot of steps that you need to keep your client on track. Remember, you're supposed to be the professional, and the more you know about it, the more professional you're going to look. That's why it was so important. I think it was because I wanted to look good. It was so important to me to know so much about what went on in the transaction when I wanted to know the contract, so I could keep my people out of trouble, mainly me out of trouble. There's a lot that goes on. Start using checklists, start learning about it. What the process, like I said, you were supposed to talk to a couple of agents. What I would do before you get into your first transaction, because here's what's going to happen. And you're going to get into your first transaction, and your mentor is not available, and you go, "What do I do?" You go through this process and get familiar with it, you'll know what to do. Now, you're not going to know everything to do, but at least you'll have an idea. It'll be a lot less fearful. Now, if you're not doing any lead generation, don't worry about it. You're probably not going to have a lot of clients.
You're so fun.
All right. So, there's not really much that we can, I don't want to let you out of here too early, though, yell at. So, any questions? No question?
Everybody wants to go early.
No, I'm not out of here until 4:30.
Have fun.
Just kidding. See, don't leave the room. All right, so no questions? Anybody in here done a transaction? Okay, good. So Scott, you didn't know some of this stuff before you started, right? Yeah.
A lot of it.
You learned it as you went along, huh? But was it scary for you?
Parts of it were.
Yeah. So had you known what to do beforehand, would it have been easier on you?
Yeah.
Yeah. So spend a little time doing it. It ain't gonna hurt you. Here's what I gotta say. You're not lead generating. So you got nothing else to do. So learn how to do, at least learn how to do the transaction just in case you get one.
Got a
In case
suggestion.
your mother wants to sell or your father wants to sell.
I got a suggestion.
What's
Oh,
that?
that was
When I'm holding open houses,
Uh-huh.
I take a listing agreement, a buyer's agreement with me, and when I have slow periods, I read over them.
Good job. Charlie is, what'd you do in the Navy?
As a postmate diver, saturation
Diver.
diver.
So he's a pretty technical guy. He's one of the few people that really spend a lot of time reading the contract. You know, he's actually out of the mentor program, and he said, I want to stay in it. I don't feel that I know enough yet. You don't find many. Most of you are going to want to be out in 2 transactions, and you still don't know enough. I got to tell you, even when they let you out after 6, is where most people show up in my office. That's
There's
their
always
next
questions.
You know, I mean, you just all of you, I think, if you haven't been, even if you have been, you need to be at the contract class this month. How many of you plan on being there? Ah. You've been a couple times.
I did a couple of times.
You're not going? Do you know the contract?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
I'm not Halloween.
You don't want to ask, you don't want to say that to me, because I'll quiz you on it. I can tell you don't know the contract.
There, it's gonna be for both buyer and seller, or I really want the seller.
Well,
Listing.
I listen. Well, no. Well, we do it all. Yeah, we cover them all. But really, in my opinion, the one you're going to deal with the most is the residential purchase agreement. So we spend a lot of time on that because when you're a listing agent, you still you have to know the residential purchase agreement, what you're getting your seller into, and when you're doing it as for a buyer, you want to have your obviously know it then too. So let me tell you, if you're not attending contract classes, you're foolish because you're going to get yourself and this brokerage in trouble. And you don't want to be in my office when you've created a problem that somehow I have to solve because I'm not going to yell at you, but I'm not a happy camper, especially if you haven't been showing up for classes because you have the ability to be able to learn all that you need to learn if you just put an effort forward. So I'm going to mark all you down. I'm going to expect you to be there. So. And not just once, because I can tell you, you won't know it. Let me tell you, I've been doing this 31 years. To this day, I'll sit down on a particular paragraph because I forget too, and I have to tell you, they've moved it around so much. Right. I was just having a conversation with an agent the other day, and I said, I can't remember where they put it this time, but here's what I can tell you. It says in the contract. I knew what it said in the contract, but I couldn't remember where they had moved it to. Now I have to say, it's a lot more organized today than it has been in many other past versions of it. So it's getting better and better all the time. But there's some confusing things in it, and you want to approach those and understand those before you get into a problem. I mean, I have an agent not long ago. I think he lost the deposit for his buyer. Or no, they were. I take that back. They were able to negotiate some of it out, but he probably lost $1,500 to $2,000. I think he said they split it. So I think he had $5,000. He lost $2,500 for his buyer because he gave him erroneous information. Now, luckily, I don't know how he talked his way out of it. I haven't seen a lawsuit show up yet, or the attorney call me or anything, but certainly could happen. They could come after this brokerage and that agent for that money because he misadvised the buyer. And you do that, you're going to end up in trouble. And the way to avoid that is to know the contract.
You expound upon misadvised.
Well, I'll tell you what the situation was. He told the client to not have an appraisal contingency in the contract. He thought that if it didn't appraise, that he'd have the ability to be able to back out a contract. Not true. Read the contract. You know the contract, what's it say?
You can come back even if it does not negotiate, appraise at the price. So the buyer's agent can come back and negotiate.
No, that's not it at all. Here's what it says. Now, this is not verbatim, but if you have so if you want to read it, it falls under the loan contingency. But if you have removed or didn't put the appraisal contingency into the offer or have removed it from the offer, a lot of times you go to counterback, appraisal shall not be a contingency of this offer. If you remove it, and the property does not appraise, then you cannot use that as you cannot use the loan contingency as a way to cancel the listing or the way to cancel the agreement unless it says if the buyer can otherwise qualify for the loan. So if the buyer lost his job, you could use the loan, even though the appraisal didn't come in and they didn't qualify for the loan for some other reason, then you would have a right to cancel it based on the loan contingency. But just based on the appraisal not coming in, you don't have a right to cancel the agreement. And he thought that they did. And so consequently, the buyer didn't want to buy the property because it had come in. I think something else showed up. I can't remember
From
what
this
it
office?
was. Huh?
From this office?
Absolutely.
Because they taught that over and over
But he didn't have a mentor?
That's the people that don't come to the contract class.
No
Yeah.
mentor?
Pardon me?
He didn't have a mentor?
Well, we're not going to go that far. No, he did not have a mentor. They worked with one of the big teams here. So,
Yeah.
so yeah, so my point is that, the more you set in the contract classes, you'll be able to ask questions. You'll be able to vet this stuff before you get in trouble, before you get your clients in trouble. Here's what typically happens is you show up at my door and you go, oh my God, I got a problem. What do I do now? And it's too late. You've already created the problem. Now we got to figure out how we can get you out of it with the least cost and maybe to you. Here's what I can tell you. When it comes out of your pocket, you'll learn from it. But see, part of the problem here today is everybody thinks, oh, we got E&O insurance. I don't have to worry about it. Yeah, well, you might. There was an agent not too long ago where the settlement was over the E&O coverage. Where do you think the money came from? Came out of that client's pocket, that agent's pocket. Yeah.
So throughout your transaction history, have you ever dealt with transactions that need to close and then buy another one concurrently, like the same day?
Well, you can't. It's really hard to do them concurrently today. You can if you use the same. Escrows will say use the same escrow company. It used to be either use the same escrow or title company. Remember, the money all goes to the title. So if you use the same title company, you can close them concurrently. Usually, you want to do it to the next day. And that's one of the things we talk about in the class, that it's really hard to close them concurrently today because you got to get the money out of this one and you got to get it over here because these lenders won't fund the loan until they know that money is in that. So it's really hard to do it.
Don't close on a Friday then.
Yeah, no. Yeah, see, and that's the kind of things that you got to be careful with. So being in the contract class will help you understand those. We talk about those scenarios. I don't teach them as much as I used to. I used to teach the whole thing. But I can tell you, in 4 days wears me out. And by day 4, I think I was spaced out today earlier. You ought to see that. Because it's just a lot of information. We read it. We go through it mostly line by line. So you can ask any questions and we can talk about it. That's the way you ought to be reading it. I'd lay a ruler down and read it because you get off track and you get off the next line. And so, but I do it on a regular basis. And that's why I'm the broker here. That's why I know so much about it. Every time we get a new one, I do the same thing. Because I want to make sure, and sometimes, I make mistakes too. There was not long ago, they took something, it was before, today, when they make changes in the contract, typically on the major revision, so the one that comes in June, they give you a sample of what they're going to be changing. And so they show that in red, but they didn't used to do that. And I don't even remember what it was at this time, but there was a short phrase at the end of a sentence that they took out that I didn't know. And I was relying on that information. That's the problem with being in business for a long time. I was relying on that information. I was giving people advice based on that. I think it was an agent here. And then they kind of questioned me a bit. I went to look where it was at, and I happened to know where it was, and it was gone. And I said, this and that. So I went back and looked. I said, oh, man, when was it in the last contract? And it was. It happened to be in the last one, but it wasn't. And this wasn't this revision. I think it was, we had a major revision. Well, we had a major one 2 years ago. We had one before that, and that's when it took place. But so, you know, rereading the contract and going back through it again never hurts anybody. So I will expect you to be in contract class. And I'm serious. If you don't show up in contract class and you start coming and asking me contract questions, I'm not a happy camper. I mean, I just, you know, you have the ability to be able to learn. Why not take advantage of it?
How many days?
4 days. So it's from 1 to 4:30, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Not a lot of time invested. And we cover the majority of the forms that you're going to be going over. So I tell you, here's one that people make mistakes on or don't understand, make mistakes on a regular basis, is the contingency for the purchase or the sale of their property. So I purchase a property, but it's contingent upon me selling my property. And people don't understand that form hardly at all. I'm from experienced agents. I get questions all the time on that form. Well, we talk about it in the you know, how would you like to be a listing agent, get that in and not know what you're doing? You know, it's 8 o'clock at night, you're sitting in front of your seller and you don't know how to explain it. Not a good thing. You don't instill confidence in people. If you're hee-hawing around about what this contract says. When I was out to take a break, one of the mentors came to me. He happens to be helping another agent, and they didn't make the mistake, but the other agent didn't make they sold the property, didn't make it a contingent. They didn't make the sale contingent upon the seller finding a replacement property. I guess seller lost their job, and now they got to, I don't know if he's going to try to get another one or what he's going to do, but they want to delay the escrow now for 10 days. Buyer didn't want to do that. Buyer's got a loan lock. So I said, well, you know, can you rent back? And something along those lines to maybe save the transaction. That seller is now in breach of contract. And you know, that agent, because they didn't know what they were doing, really put that seller in that position. They should have made it contingent upon the seller finding suitable housing or a replacement property.
So it works both ways.
Pardon me?
It could work both ways, like the buyer
Well,
could be contingent on them.
Well, it does work both ways. So, well, that's what happens. You get an offer. That's why people aren't selling today, because they won't put the property on the market because they don't know where they're going to go. So this buyer buys this property contingent on him selling his, but the seller then wants to make sure he's got somewhere to go, so he accepts that offer contingent on finding a replacement property. So you can have both of those in one transaction. And today, that's what you're seeing a lot of. So don't you want to know beforehand what kind of things could happen or what you need to do? You're probably not going to find it on your own. I mean, I take it from our past experience. None of you talked to anybody since Wednesday about the closing process. You're probably not going to be asking people until you have the problem about how to handle the contract, what you're going to do in Spurs. So you should really come to the contract class. This has been a big pitch for the contract class. Sorry about that. But it's really important to me because not only does it keep you out of trouble, it keeps this brokerage out of trouble. And, you know, that's my job to do that. Go ahead.
Do you have a date yet? I know you said it's next month.
Yes, it's always the third week of the month, and we're doing it. So we're going to actually do it. We were supposed to do it this month, but they wanted to do it tonight. So it'll be next month, the third week, and then the following month, the third week. And we're right now only doing them in the afternoons. We want to get back to a schedule where we do one in the afternoon and one in the morning. So some people can't stay the whole time in the afternoon. So we're trying to accommodate them so they can learn the contract. You know, they have kids or whatever they have to go pick up. So 3 or 3:30, people start flocking out of here and they miss some, good information that they probably ought to be learning. Okay, so any questions in general about since I'm the broker here, maybe I can answer all of them. I don't know. Any questions in general about some of the stuff you've been working on since you've been through Ignite? No? So how's it been for you? Have you learned a lot?
Yes.
How about lead generation? Have you been, I got to tell you, I know I feel like I'm harping on it, but it's so important. It is really, and you heard Sam say this, and I didn't like when he said it, but other than knowing the contract, it is the most important thing that they run simultaneously. Sam said lead generate for 6 hours a day. If you work an 8-hour day, take 2 hours and study the contract. Those are the two things you're going to need up front. You're right. You're not going to need that contract until you have a client. It really doesn't matter until then, but you don't want to wait. You didn't wait to learn how to drive until you got your first car, did you? No, most people don't. They learn how to drive, then they get the first car. So, you want to do that. Lead generation is very important, and so is the contract. Just because it makes your job easier. If that'll cause you to do it. I got to tell you, it can be very stressful when you're in the midst of a transaction and you got a problem that you created and you don't know if the deal's going to close or not. Now your buyer's going to lose, all the stuff Jerry talked about and, all the fluff. You're not going to be able to do any of that because they're going to hate you. I can tell you, they lose that property and lose money. You know what they say is if you do a good job for people, they'll tell 3 people. If you do a bad job, they tell 10. So, another question?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
So you were talking about lead generation.
Uh-huh.
I would love to hear your experience of that door knocking, things like that.
Uh-huh. Well, I'm not a big cold caller. I did do some of it when I was new in the business. And a lot of times people will say I don't want to cold call because a lot of the numbers are unlisted. Okay, so you can use what I did was, and somebody else, you steal a lot of things. You plagiarize a lot of people's stuff. You're going to be doing it with marketing. You're going to be doing, don't think you need to recreate the wheel. You want to be different, but take other people's ideas and have it. So anyhow, what we used to do is take an exchange. So I worked in Pennsylvania. The exchange was 484, and I started out calling 0001, 0002, and I'll tell you what, you'll get a lot of people that never get calls because their number's unlisted. Now today, that's changed a little bit. A lot of landlines we don't have anymore. It's cell phones. So if I were going to do it, I would find a cell phone exchange in the area and call those if I were going to cold call. But you don't know that they own a home. You don't know any of that. So what so my things were door knocking. I farmed, and then I did a lot of open houses. And I did work some when I first started in this business. And they're just down here. There's not a lot of them. I worked for sale by owners, and I was good at working for sale by owners. I could list them, and now again, it's a process. Everybody wants to sell their property, but for those of you that have been coming, and you heard Sam talking about, and was saying it was Sam talking about qualifying people, you got to qualify them. One of the questions is be amazing. Somebody's selling their home, and you'd say to them, you say, well, why are you selling? I'm being transferred to Seattle. And so when do you have to be there? I need to be there in the 30 days. So I'd say to people, now this is all memorized language. So this is scripts, memorized language. So I'd say, so what are you going to do if your home isn't, well, first of all, it takes 30 days to close an escrow. But what are you going to do if your home doesn't sell in the next 30 to 60 days? And you know what? Most of those people never thought about it because they think they're going to sell their property overnight. And even in this market with a for sale by owner, people don't like to deal with you're getting more of them, but people don't like to deal with for sale by owners because there's nobody really there to gauge what they're doing. They don't know the laws. They could be breaking the law and don't even know it. So for sale by owners, expireds, open houses. I think open houses are the best way to create business because you can door knock around it. What better way? This is Now, I told you my experience when I knocked on the door and the guy told me to get out the hell off the porch. You know, I was just trying to give him some information. But if you go up and if you knock on the door and say, you know, hi, my name's Gary Strominger, I'm with Keller Williams Realty, and I've just listed, or I'm going to be holding a property open around the corner, you know, at 123 Any Street. And I just want to stop by and invite you to the open house. We'll be holding it open from 1 to 4 on both Saturday and Sunday. And if you have a friend that's thinking about moving into the area, you're certainly welcome to bring them by. Here's a highlight sheet on it. Do you happen to know anybody that's thinking about buying in the area? No. How about you? Any neighbors that you might be thinking about selling? No. How about you? Are you thinking about making a move anytime in the near future? No. You just want to knock doors and just want to knock doors, you're not doing it, you know, you could provide them. You know, for me, I'm not good at just knocking the door and asking them the question. I kind of feel like I have to give them something. So I provide some information. But, you know, you can say, here's a question that you can ask somebody that you can get a yes answer to. And that's what you want to start doing, is you can say, have you ever thought about selling your home? Now, how many people that live in the house, how many of you own a home? Have you ever thought about selling it?
No.
No?
No.
Well, you sold 100 times. Have you ever thought about selling it? Yeah, it comes up, doesn't it? Maybe you don't do anything about it, but what are people going to say? Yeah, we've thought about it. So if you were to move, where would you go? Now
Told me how
you start working that, you start getting that emotion going. So then you just go, and then, you know, maybe you walk away and you say, listen, it's been really great talking to you. Mind if I add you to my database? I'd love to stay in contact with you. Would that be okay with you? Great. You know, use the app, do whatever you do. Can I just get your information? And you need some kind of a drip system to stay in touch with.
So I also would like to know what if you get an offer before your open house?
I get an offer?
Yeah, the seller want to accept it. And do we have an obligation to tell the people who walk into the house, hey, the house is already under contract? Or we don't have obligation unless they ask?
He says no, but I would tell him, absolutely, I would tell him. Because I wouldn't want somebody to go write an offer on the property.
But I will tell them we are looking to accept backup offer.
Well, sure, that's what I could say. You could say that. But you want to certainly let them know that you have an offer on the property. Because I don't think, you know, you heard Jerry talk about your reputation. You know, especially if you're a farmer and you work in a particular area, you're going to be listing other homes in there, and you don't want people not to like them. Because, number one, they're going to probably buy in that area, and then what are they going to do? They're not going to talk favorably about you. So I would want to let them know, yeah, we have an offer on it, but we are taking backup offers. Absolutely, I would encourage a backup offer. A lot of people don't want to do it. So I think open houses are the best. I use open houses to door knock. I'm not a big door knocker otherwise. If I do have to take some information with me. I'm just not good at knocking on the door and saying, you know, are you thinking about selling? You know, there's been times that I've knocked on the door and said, you know, that there's no inventory in the area, you know, and there's lots of buyers. You know, who do you know that might be thinking about selling in the neighborhood? I get people, you know, that'll tell me. The guy across the street's mentioned it, I think.
So in the area, the house that I have in Escrow, it was a house that they put a sign for rent, and then 1 week ago I saw it says for sale. What would you do? I mean,
so they're for sale by owner.
By owner. So
knock on their door
and say,
I saw your sign. Here, let me tell you the script. This is the script I use, and it works very well. So you can probably pick up the phone, or you can see a sign. So you go up, knock on the door, you say, I saw your sign. I just stopped by to see if you're cooperating with real estate. Are you? Are you cooperating with real estate? And just answer my question. It's like you're the for sale by owner.
I mean, if they do, it was not by owner, no.
So, but a lot of them do, you know.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, a lot of them cooperate. So what they'll do is, most of the time they'll say, yeah, we'll pay you 2.5% if you bring a buyer by. And you say, okay, great. It'll take just a few minutes to see enough of your home so I can tell potential buyers about it. Can I do that now? And they say yes, and you go in and you start going through. Now you start qualifying. Why are you selling? Where are you going? When do you have to be there? And then you try to work into a listing appointment. So I have to be there in 30 days. I've been, you know, and then you can, I mean, there's tons of things that there's tons of memorized language. You can go back to, you know, there's 4 kinds of buyers. You know, that, I don't remember the language as well as I used to. There's no for sale. I wish there were for sale by down here. For sale by owners down here. I would work them. Because they're 85% of the people are going to list that are for sale by owners.
Right.
85% of them. What a source.
Should I tell them I represented the buyer for that? I mean, it's
You
like.
could tell them that. You could tell them that. But what you want to do is try to sell them on listing with you.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah, so you're going to have to explain. See, you got to explain to them why they're going to benefit by listing with you and not selling it on their own. So, most buyers that come into a for sale by owner are looking to buy the house so here's the question. So I would say to you, what's the single greatest advantage in selling your home yourself?
You don't want to pay commission. I don't want to pay commission. I want to save more money.
So you don't want to pay a commission. What do you think the buyer's single greatest advantage is in buying the home directly?
They want to pay less.
Yeah.
So it's
They want to save
equal.
the same commission you want to save. Isn't that right?
Right.
Yeah. So when a buyer comes into for sale by owner, they're not the language. But you just have to learn language to then convert them, to demonstrate to them why
We advertise.
why they want to. Yeah, well, I wouldn't even go there. You got to say, doing it. Why is it a disadvantage of you doing it on your own? Because I'll see if I do, some of it comes back to. But basically, what they're saying is, when for sale by owners go out and look, typically they're not qualified to buy the homes that they look at. What they do is, if the home is worth, if they're qualified to buy a home for $500,000, they don't look at $500,000 homes. They look at homes that are worth they don't look at if they can qualify for $400,000 homes. They don't look at $400,000 homes. They look at $450,000 and $500,000 home. Why? Because they're bargain hunters. They want to save money, and so then you just keep. There's lots of language in it. Which I thought I knew it better than I do now, but it's been 15 years since I used it, so some of it still comes back. But yeah, I would approach them and learn some language before you go, or just go do it.
Yeah.
Because until you stumble around, you can't then figure out what you need to do next time.
And I think
It's okay to make a mistake. Wouldn't you rather make a mistake when you're brand new? Or
I think it's better when I just go and do it. I can do it better than
Well, here's what I would say to you, and this came out of this guy that I told you about, that this Jerry Brusser that was out of Michigan. That's he wrote the book List More, Sell More, and he was a big for sale by owner guy. And he talked about, most people say, I don't want to use scripts because they sound canned. Well, the only reason they sound canned is because you haven't practiced them enough until you internalize them. So when the example that he gave, he said, if Bing Crosby wrote a song and Elvis Presley sang it, they would sing it note for note, word for word, but he would add his personality to it, right? And that's what you have to learn to do when you memorize language, is to, put emphasis on this syllable rather than this syllable. Do things you would put your personality in there, and then it doesn't seem like it's canned. And if you know it, most of the time what you do is you get those people that are doing those robocalls, and they're reading off of a script, and they don't know it very well because they don't pay them very well. They're not there very long, and so they don't know the script. But if you internalize the script, it'll be you. And some of that language, because it applies to other areas, I use today. Well, here's what happens. I'm in a situation, I need that language, it just comes up. When I try to think about it, it's hard, it's sometimes hard. But almost all that stuff I said to you was all memorized language. And it worked like a charm. I was listing for sale by owners right and left. In a slow market, hard to sell, but I was listening right and left. Because I could, when other people couldn't. Just because I had memorized language, I knew what I was going to say, I was prepared when I went in. When I moved down here, I moved down here as a trainer. I closed 5 listings down here that were in Long Beach.
And I think that's important too, because I have experience with that. I shadow first open house, I shadow a really good broker. And then the next week I sold a house, $1 million house. I actually did what he did, and the way he was talking, I just was like listening to see. And I sold the house, an open house. It
And language is, there's nothing wrong with memorizing language. Think about it. Even yourself, you're going to have scripts. You may write them, but you're going to have certain things that you say all the time when you're making a presentation. Because it's just easier for you to do that. So why reinvent the wheel? Why not take language that already works? Now, there's going to be some that doesn't fit your personality. There's they give you a lot of scripts here. Some of the scripts that I don't particularly like, I would change them a little bit, change words. They tell you not to change any words because what they talk about, especially with Keller Williams, is that there's embedded commands and there's lots of stuff in there that you may not know about that will cause a seller to do things that your language may not cause them to do. As I just said it earlier, as an example, most people ask for an appointment. Why don't we? When the real way to ask for an appointment is when, how, where, right? So we started on your lead generation question. We got off. So those were really the key. I will knock doors. I really like to knock doors around open houses. It's great to invite people. When you're inviting the neighbors in. Sometimes you can do just a neighborhood open house. So you open up at 11 o'clock and you do it. A lot of people will serve sandwiches. Let me tell you, you can blow it out if you're. And with my former business partner, because she was a presentation person, what we used to do is we would do an open house. We would have an hour to an hour and a half before the open house opened up. We would provide sandwiches or something. It was earlier in the morning, and we'd have orange juice and coffee, and sometimes we'd have the sellers there because we would tell the neighbors that come on by and say goodbye to the sellers. That we're going to be selling their house, and come on by and say goodbye to them. And then we'd get crowds of people in there going through the open house. And for me and for her, what it was is now we had an opportunity to chat with these people on a non-threatening situation. And we could build it. This is a relationship business. Now, that's what Jerry was talking about earlier, relationship. And so a guy once told me that trained me that actually brought me down here said, if the relationship is more important than the commission, people will stand in line to work with you because people know that you care about them. When I was with Century 21, they used to say, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. So this is a business. People need to feel that they know you care about them, and it's not about the commission. Now, I know that's how we earn our living, but I got to tell you, people will pick it up. If the commission is more, if you're trying to close this deal because you want the commission, they will pick it up, and you'll lose. If that deal doesn't close, you'll lose those clients, and if it does, you probably won't have them down the road. And if you want to lead generate the rest of your life, then that's the way to conduct business. If you want to be on a referral kind of basis, then you'll build relationships with people. Because remember, every time you pick up the phone and you call somebody, you say, who do you know that's thinking about, it's been great talking with you. Listen, let me ask you just one. Usually what I'll do is I say, do you mind if I ask you if I conduct a little business? Listen, it's been really great talking to you. Do you mind if I just ask you one quick business question? And they all, you just talk to them for 15 minutes. They're not going to say, no, you're going to. And then I ask them, who do you know think about buying, selling, or investing in real estate? I don't say to them at that time because they would tell me. My belief is they would tell me if they were thinking about it. If they say they don't know anybody, I say, great. And, if you hear anybody, please let me know. And they always go, Gary, we would always let you know. My partner and I and myself did really good jobs. I send out a survey too. We and myself got excellent comments about what we did. I've got one girl here. I don't know whether you guys know, but I'm going to retire next year or so. She's selling a property this summer because she wants to make sure that I sell it for her. Yes, it's very nice. Okay. I'm as tired as you guys are. We've been doing it all week. So any other questions? All right, I'm going to let you out 10 minutes early. Oh, wait, you got a question?
For survey, if we need to, prepare the survey for the buyer, then we need to call the city or
for the utilities?
Surveys.
For a survey?
Yes.
No, you would call it a surveyor. When you say a survey. Oh, what I said was I send out a survey. Is that what you're talking about? I don't know what your question is.
For the buyer, maybe if they want, we need to schedule a survey for them.
Well, and if you're selling in this area, you probably don't need a survey. This is lot and block, unless maybe there's some question about where the lot lines are, but this is lot and block. These have been surveyed. You walk out the street, and you can see that it's been pinned. There's a turning point in the sidewalk. You can see basically where the lot line goes. So no, But if you were doing something in Ramona, that might be a different story. Yeah, remember, these people are from Texas that wrote this book, and so remember, there's a lot of land over there, so they probably do a lot more surveys and things differently than we do here. Gary left us.
Yes.
Okay, there's no more questions.
Thank you.
Oh.